Hi guys, Mark here. Welcome. In today's tutorial, we're making a nice looking and relatively easy to tie key fob. Now this particular design is not my own. It has been done in the Paracord community before, at least a couple of times, and the knot used here is quite rare. It is a single pass casa knot, which in itself is not hard to tie, but laying out and tightening a single pass knot like this without an interweave or a second pass is quite challenging. I have attempted this project in the past with mixed results. I didn't really like it. Now the issue that I was having is in the layout of the knot. Laying out a knot on a traditional mandrel, so basically a broomstick handle or a dowel rod, is not as easy as on a pinned mandrel. So basically I switched to a pinned mandrel, which made my job a lot easier. The results are more consistent, repeatable, which is what I want in my projects. With that said, let's take a look at the supplies. Our first supply has already been mentioned. A pinned mandrel with 4 pins on the left, 4 pins on the right, in my case about 3 inches apart. The diameter of the mandrel, again in my case, is 1 inch. You can improvise a pinned mandrel out of a toilet paper roll and a couple of pins. Our second supply is the cordage. A strand of Paracord 550 6 feet long for our main knot, and a strand a foot and a half long, again Paracord 550, for the core, the loop, the finishing knot at the bottom. When selecting your cord, I recommend using fuller, thicker, more bulky cord that's not too soggy. So, a bit more of a stiff, non-pliable cord. Our final supply is optional but highly recommended, as always, when tying Turks head knots, lacing needle. Tying this knot, as I've mentioned, is quite simple. I'm going to attach a lacing needle onto one of the ends and feed the other end into an opening near pin 1 on the left. You can also tuck your end under a rubber band. From pin 1 on the left, we're going to do 3 turns. So 1, 2, 3, reaching pin 3 on the right. 3 turns around our mandrel. Most of our work is going to be done in sets of 3. So the next step is from pin 3 on the right to the next pin on the left, going over 3, over 1, 2, 3, to pin 2 on the left. From pin 2 on the left to the next pin on the right. So, again in 3s, over 1, over 2, over 3, to pin 4 on the right. From pin 4 on the right to the next pin on the left, again in 3s, going the opposite to our previous strand. So, under over, under over, under over, reaching pin 3 on the left. From pin 3 on the left to the next pin on the right side. Again traveling the opposite to our previous strand. Under over, under over, under over, reaching pin 1 on the right. From pin 1 on the right side, we are going to pass the opposite to our previous strand, again in threes, so over, under, over, over, under, over, over, under, over, reaching pin 4 on the left. From pin 4 on the left, we pass to the next pin on the right side, traveling the opposite to our previous strand. In our case, basically splitting a pair of parallel strands. Same sequence as before, over, under, over, over, under, over, over, under, over, reaching pin 2 on the right side. From pin 2 on the right, we travel to our initial pin on the left, traveling the opposite to our previous strand. So we start under, then continue, over under, over under, and so on. A simple over 1, under 1 sequence, all the way to pin 1 on the left. So you can probably agree this is a simple knot to tie. Place your working end alongside the standing end of your knot, like this. Remove your end from your hole or rubber band. Grab a tool and sink in your screws. I think these are called hex wrenches in English. I am next going to prepare the core. For now, I'm going to fold my cord in half, tie an overhand knot near the top, so at the loop, move down a bit, maybe 2 inches, make another overhand, and I'm going to place my knot in between these two. These two are temporary, just to keep my knot from slipping off of the cord. I'm going to place my knot onto the core, let's say like this, remove my lacing needle, then do a couple of passes of tightening, starting at the standing end, going lightly through the knot, removing slack. Pulling the slack into the working end. Now after my first pass of tightening, the knot really doesn't look like much. What I want is when tightening, I want to line up the sections like this, so parallel. So when tightened, this is the look that I'm going for. I have one more thing to do now. Before I tighten up too much, I'm going to pass my working end here, coming up under one. I'm going to pass it under the knot to the right side. This will make it easier to secure and trim at the end. For now, more tightening needs to be done. When tightening, really try to keep your strands parallel, one next to the other. With the tightening done, I'm going to undo my overhand knots optionally attach a keyring even out my two ends as well as adjust my loop. Trim off the standing and working end. Finally, tie a decorative knot with my two ends. In my case, the knife lanyard knot. Tighten up your knot as close to your main knot as possible. So pull in one of these two strands, run the slack through the knot into one of the ends. grab the other strand, again pull it through the knot, then into one of the ends. Like this. You can tighten up for a second time. In our case, we're going to do a trim, then melt the ends. I like to remove a bit of the inner strands. This is optional, of course. Melt or tuck any visible ends under the knot. The result should be a nice looking key fob. Here we have one, here we have another one. I like both. For now, thank you for joining me and see you next time.